Welcome to the debate panel on how to create a good product for the market. So, I'm going to start with the first question. I find it really interesting because myself, I come from a really modest family, and I had to build my own company from scratch. Do you think that there are really important drivers of success except money for when you create a product, like important factors that might lead it to succeed more or less, the resources that you might have?
Okay. Yeah, can everybody hear? Okay, great. I believe there is one most important factor, and that's you. I guess that's pretty much what it is. So the person who's actually running the business is the most important factor in the business. To start up anyway, because you need a lot of power and a lot of energy, and you have to have the drive to actually go through with this, and the understanding. So yes, from that, if to answer that question, one most important factor is you, to start with.
Do you all agree with him that it's just about you? Then I would want to develop on this question. Like, do you think people are born entrepreneurs, or they're like more they can be taught how to become entrepreneurs?
I think, yeah, you learn how to be entrepreneur. You can have some mentors that will help you how to develop and give you advice. But clearly, my point is that it's about you as well, but about others. It's your capacity as well to adapt when you have an idea, product, to test it. So you can have as much money as you want, but if you put all your money in one try, I think your chance of failing is like really high. So it's more your capacity to always adapt and change maybe your perspective and the way you present your product or exactly the feature of your product. It's more this capacity to pivot, actually, that is really important. So, for example, as well, I built my startup from scratch with no money. We had a budget of 1,000 euro, I think. It took us a lot of time. Clearly, money is an enabler, so you can go much quicker to the market. But the idea is that we developed as well some strategy to co-design the product, to interact with clients or prospects. And really, it was our capacity to change always our perspective and the feature that enable us to make some sales now. So it's about money, clearly, but as well, it's much more about your capacity to change.
Okay, thank you.
One thing we've seen, coaching and accompanying startups is the perseverance. I think is a very important factor, because we tend to see a lot of entrepreneurs, but the one we keep on seeing, the one that keep on with new ideas, pivoting, the one that talk to their customers and continue to go ahead and are able to, maybe change a little bit their ideas to better fit with the market, but that really persevere are the one that are bound to success. Maybe not on that venture, but then, if they continue on the next one, maybe they'll be successful. So for me, that would be perseverance.
You want to add something?
Maybe it's also too important if we talk about the product, but my experience come maybe for management and sport industry, like a professional player, and then team head coach. The main question is what is our aim? For example, if we begin, we have a really good idea, but finally to have a success, there's a really long way, and we just as important to put some question: which possibility, which capability do we have? Which value are important for us, and what we reach, what we have, and for example, who am I, what I want, for example, and maybe how do I look? This is the possibility to reach, to have a success. Because for somebody, success is to be only have a lot of money. For another, to have a respect. For another one is famous. This different way to have really the success in, for example, in the market. If we talk not only different products, but also about the human groups.
Okay, thank you. So for all the the entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs, now that we know that their attitude is really important, let's say that they come up with an idea, a really good idea. How important do you think it is for an idea to be good, and like what are like important steps to start implementing it? Because ideas are cheap. Many people come up with great ideas, but they don't know how to put it into practice, and they don't know if like having just a good idea is like a sign of success. So my question is like, could you already predict the success of an idea just based on its idea, or does it depend on other things? And if the idea might seem good, what are the steps to start implementing it? Because this is the question that a lot of young people have. Like, what are the first steps? Okay, I have a great idea. I don't know what to do first.
Well, I think the idea that you have at the initial point and what you will end up with, it's totally different. So you might have a good idea, but in the end, you have to test it, and you will realize that actually your end product is totally different. So the first step, I think, if you have a good idea, is to test it. So to talk about it with people. We're always afraid, maybe someone will steal my idea and so on. Yeah, but actually not. I mean, you have to convince people that if it's the case, you have to convince the people that it's a good idea, that they have to have the time, the money to invest in it. So it's like very unlikely that they will steal your idea. But they might give you feedback and tell you, no, if I were you, I would do that in that way. Yeah? And they will give you advice, and you will test your idea. This is the first step that you have to do. Secondly, you have to find people that agree with you, that want to develop this idea. To develop a project alone is very, very difficult. And the time is against you, because the money as well. You need some cash, some support. So the second step is really as well to find co-founders to develop your idea, and as well have more resources, as well human resources and capacities. Yeah. And after that, is really to test always the idea and the product. And I mean, it's how we worked. And so in the end, you can have a very good idea at the beginning. It's inspiring. So this is what is important. You have to inspire others. But after, what you end up with, sometimes it's totally different.
Okay. Before I let John speak, I have like a follow-up question, because you speak a lot about testing. Do you think it's possible to test everything? Like if someone has the idea of like creating a more brick and mortar business, like restaurants or hotel chains or real estate company, do you think there's also a way to test it? Because, for example, I have a friend who's like really interested into green architecture, but he wants to build the buildings before like applying his green architecture on it. How would he be able to test it? Or is it only for more tech startups?
No, I think it's from, I mean, my experience is more in tech startup, but clearly I think you can test it in any case. You have always some other professionals that are in sector that are really, really close to what you want to develop. And you should look at this guy and see what they are doing and not be afraid to talk with them. As I said, it's very unlikely that this, unless you have like an incredible idea, so you are genius and you're like in advance of your time. But in general, we have some good idea, but we are not so, say, revolutionary. People won't have so much money or so much time to dedicate to your project. So they will more give you advice or take you as well, propose you some partnership and so on. So clearly, the idea is to really look at what is in the market that you want to have, who are the actors, and to go to talk to these actors. You will always find some people that are doing more or less the same thing that you are doing. Mm-hmm. And it's a good sign. It means that you have some market, yeah? If you are alone, it means that there is no market for you. So maybe it's not such a good idea after all. Okay, thank you.
Well,
John?
I would actually differentiate two things. One is the idea, and the other one is a product. I mean, that's not necessarily the same thing. The idea, you start with an idea and you have a direction. That gives you a direction where you're going to go, and then the product will adjust to whatever you find in the market when you test. I confirm completely what you said. It's absolutely right. And in your example with the architect, same thing. I mean, you're not going to build a ready-made house. You don't know if that's the house everybody wants. I mean, how you would not spend that kind of money. You would actually go out with the idea, test the idea, make sure people actually like that kind of thing, and then, as I guess most people know, you build the minimum viable product and just build it from there, and you just start from that angle. So that's the way I would say is the easiest way to find out if a product can work. Your business is based on an idea. You have a direction. What you said also, you need to have some way where you want to go. What is important for you? That's not a product. A product is a tool to achieve whatever it is you want to do. That's it. And during a lifetime of a business, products might change. You might adjust to the market. You might adjust to whatever. I mean, this is something you have to be very clear. So if someone thinks, I'm going to create this huge app now, which is going to be fantastic on every mobile phone, that's not a business idea. It's just an app. It's just a product. You might as well go to someone who already runs a business like this and say, look, I have this product, would you be interested, whatever. But as a business, I don't see the competition is huge in this kind of thing, and I find a lot of people make that mistake. They base their business completely on a product and not actually on what they want to do and achieve this with this. So.
The geek in me is going to speak. There's a new technology revolution that's coming. It's called virtual reality. And I think it's going to do a lot of good for startups and people with venture, because you can recreate a reality and have the people of the vision of the final product. It may be a process, it may be a product itself, or in your case, it may be the house or the building that the person is supposed to build. So rather than show it on the 2D screens or on a paper, people can put a headset and be in the house, even though it hasn't been built. So I think we'll see more and more, like 3D printing is also a way for you to, experiment with shapes and form and show people and let them test and have it. So I think there's some technological evolution that allow people to better test their idea, even if it's just not a tech startup and if it's a physical good. So there are ways. There's always ways.
Interesting.
I agree with you with this. We talk special about the product, about the, for example, restaurant, hotels. But maybe sometimes it's simple to. This important point is very simple word: popularity. It's important for us is which form is our product is recognized between the people, between the consumers, and for example. And across our increase the order, how many products people need from us, and if we can send a message, this our product, our place is the best, and everyone need or everyone that can maintain this image, this message, that can be the best way for the people. If the people must choose, then the people grab for our product or come to us. I think so. That is so really sometimes easy, but not so easy if we have this really strong competition in the market to maintain our possibility.
Okay, thank you. So we've heard that when testing, we can ask experts in the area, and we can also see that if people are busy in the same sector, that we already have a market. Now my question is is it important to actually have a first mover's advantage, to be a pioneer into a completely new sector, a new domain, to create a market? How important do you think it is?
There is no advantage or disadvantage. It's a completely different game. If you're completely new in a new market, you have to develop the market first. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort. And of course, I mean, the big players today, they were never first in market. They're always the second or the third, and they're the ones who run the markets today. So if you look at the statistics and you look back, no, it's not an advantage. Actually, it's probably a disadvantage. But I'm not saying it's not possible. There have been quite a few companies out there who did make it, So, but it's hard work, and it's far easier if you already know what the market is about. You can play with it. You have people to ask. I mean, who are you going to ask and test your product with if you don't even know who that is? So, it's the first people who came up with an app, and if you would have spoken 20 years ago and said, "I create an app," everyone would say, "What is that?" Nobody would have even known what you're talking about. Today, you don't need to do this anymore. An app, everybody knows what that is. It's easy, So.
Anyone of you?
I would totally agree. I think it's more a disadvantage than an advantage. I think the only advantage is that you can as well inspire people maybe more easily, and that you are like a pioneer and you can revolutionize something, But it's a lot of work, and clearly for a startup, especially for young people, the time is always against you. You don't have that much money, so it's difficult to maintain always this trends to continue, to persevere. I mean, the one that do that are really as well superhero, But So I would say if you have to be strong to be a pioneer.
Yes, that's true.
I think there are certain exceptions where sometimes you can surf on the marketing wave created by others. So think about Windows mobile phone. When it came out, there were very few apps available on the phone, yet Microsoft invested millions to promote the few apps that were there. So the one that bet on the Microsoft platform for their phone and developed an app for them got huge sales. It was a small market. There were few users, but because they were the first or the only one providing that app on that platform, it was an advantage to them because they could surf on that wave. I talked about virtual reality. Well, Facebook is going to be releasing a headset next year, probably January, February. There's going to be about 200 applications ready for market. Well, those ones are going to get huge opportunity. What? Because they made the bet that this is the platform it's going to explode on, and this is technology that's going to work. Maybe they're going to fail, but if they succeed, they're going to surf on that wave. So sometimes being a first mover, when you talked about a platform or technology shift, can be an advantage.
So what does it depend on? Is it more the sector, or are there variables that can predict where it's better to have a first mover's advantage or second, third, or last?
Well, I think certain things are beyond your control. Take the sharing economy. It was both a change in behavior, in people's behavior, and an enablement by technology. So people that were in that field just happened to be lucky. They were at the right time, at the right place, and yes, it worked for them that, okay, people were willing to open the door of their house and let strangers in for a few days. Yeah, well, okay, but that's both a change in behavior and something enabled by technology. So I think there's certain factors that are beyond your control, but it's true that when you have to educate your customer about a need you perceive they have that they don't necessarily perceive, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say just one thing to this. If you want to be the first mover on the thing, then there are some statistics about this, how this works, and who were the ones. And the biggest factor of all of this was timing. Actually, what you said is the main thing. If you're the first mover, you have to come at the right time, at the right place, in the right moment. There's no other way. And if you look at any of the big ones who made it, they came just at. There were others who tried. They didn't make it. They failed completely. For example, video. Before YouTube, there were others. They failed miserably. Then YouTube came exactly at the right time, when broadband was perfect, when everything was just in order to make, and they made it big. There wasn't a new idea, actually, but it didn't exist. The market wasn't there because the other ones failed completely and lost it. So timing in that phase is the biggest. But how do you influence timing? That's something you will see after it's passed, if it was right or wrong.
Yes, I see. Well, a question related to this, we talk about timing when we get to the market, but then a question that a lot of entrepreneurs might have is should I create a product that people want or that they need inherently? Since we have to sometimes to change behavior, maybe they don't even know that they have this need, and what is the most important?
There isn't an importance on this. If you go to a fun fair today, you don't need it. But you go anyway, and the products sell very well. I mean, people make money with this. There are two types of products. One is, of course, which fulfills a need in the market, and the other one is maybe what I would call curiosity. It's just something people are interested to see. It's, of course, very difficult to manage, but it's there, it exists, and there's a huge market out there. It's just based on that. And you just bring some hype on it, and then, it flows. If there's a need, no, there isn't. Do you need Coca-Cola? Probably not. This is something that is it's still a product. It's a huge product. It's a big product. So it doesn't always fulfill a need. But, of course, if you want to find something that you can test against, a need is better, because any of the curiosity products you have to produce first. You have no choice. How can you tell someone about the idea of Coca-Cola if you can't actually show them what it is? It's very difficult. So that's the disadvantage. So for a startup, I would always go for find a need first. Find something where you can find a solution to a problem, and then start with this. And when you have a company of a certain size, you can play probably have the means and the money and whatever to do so.
What do you guys think about need versus desire?
I would differentiate the B2B and the B2C. I think in B2B, I mean, you need to answer a need, something that hits the bottom line, something that falls within the business process, that helps, saves time, resource, brings agility to the business. I think the type of consideration when you're selling to businesses is different than when you sell to users, where they're more looking for the experience, the status. I think the consideration of what your product aims to achieve and what is going to create the purchase decision is different, depending on the two model. One thing I like is the growth now of crowdfunding and the ability for people to take very little risk, come up with either design or certain products, and let the people decide if there is an opportunity or not in further developing the product. It's not as easy, because I know a lot of people that have done Kickstarters and the Indiegogo and got no results. So because they have invested very little in marketing, or they haven't really tried to. So there is a marketing effort needed. But if you do it properly, then let the people fund your development, and that would diminish the risk.
Thank you.
Just to add briefly, yeah, I think you can have the both, yeah, like want and need, yeah. But clearly, you will have to present your product differently. Want, you have to be maybe more to attract more people by a nice design. I mean, they have to see that, oh, it's beautiful, I want to try it, yeah, as you said. So they need to be convinced that actually they want to spend money for that. So it means that you have to make more effort in marketing, in design to present something. Need, you can have as well an ugly product, as long as it's working. People will say, okay, yeah, I will still try because I need this to answer my problem, yeah? So it's two different strategies, I would say. And sometimes it's more into B2B or B2C as well. You have to understand that, yeah? So I think both are like still valuable and profitable to develop a product. But it will be two different strategies.
Okay. So you were talking about design and everything. Like, if someone, like imagine someone wants to launch a product, how important is it? Like the external factors. Like we have like the core activity of the product or the app. Do you think it is enough to attract people, or should people also focus on other aspects like design, visuals, price, and like should it have like a really nice package, or should people actually focus only on the product, even if it looks ugly, just to start the test and then see how people react?
I guess it depends very much on the type of product you have. If you go just for the curiosity market, then it's a very different story. You have to have a finished product that works and is attractive enough for people to go to. But if you're looking at a niche market, and you're looking at an area where you actually try to fulfill a need in a way, or have a problem and you try to solve it, then you don't know what you're going to create. You have to start bit by bit, and you really you ask people first if they like it in a way, the idea, if they can pull on this. You create a minimal thing, you give it to them, you sell it to them in a way, and they try they use it and then give you feedback, and you build it from there, and at one point you have it. If you have a luxury product, if you are some sort of which I call it, it's a different category again, if you are a type of person who wants to run around in boss clothes.
Or enable them to share with others, it becomes more and more the positive impact that the product has on the person, and so they attach the experience with the brand. I think we haven't talked about logo, but I think much more than a name, I think the logo is, now that we are a very visual society, that there's the internet, there's the icons of the apps, there is, I think more and more logos, and the color you choose and the shape you use is even more important than the name itself, I believe.
So do you believe in the psychology of shapes and colors?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, totally. As well as clearly the experience that you provide to your customer, and what works best is the referral that they will tell to other people in the market. Yeah, whatever it's your name, if it's complicated or whatever, it's very simple. If you have some good referrals, people talk about it. Oh, this was an amazing product. This was an amazing service. you will have more customers. It's what works the best, yeah? So for me, the name is not really so important.
Okay, so more focus on like the products.
Well, I found what more and more people do, and people I'm working with anyway, because they're basing their product and the way they do marketing for the product very much on social media. So they're looking, for example, is there any hashtag still available I can call my product or my business at? And that's what they really do. They actually go for this and say, is there anything free? And they just, oh, this sounds really cool, so I do this. There's not that much research in it. It's purely that, to have a single identifier which has not been used yet. So, because of course, it's a bad thing. Let's say you have something and the identifier of that would be exactly what everyone else is using already on Twitter or wherever else. That would not be a good thing. I mean, you would have a disadvantage. So that's something people look at too, more and more today. So find that.
Okay.
Just one example came to mind. It's, Angry Birds. Angry, it's a negative feeling. Yet for people that never played games, like I'm a first-person shooter player, I love to shoot at stuff. But people that have been introduced to gaming and social gaming on their phone and saw, really nice stuff with fairies, and suddenly they have a game that's, angry. I can express myself angrily. It's birds against pigs, and this sort of, it's a game where I can express a feeling I sometimes have of frustration, and I can fight other things and make it work. So the game mechanic itself is really old. It has been done before. The company that did it, they did 85 different games before. It was the last game they were going to do. They went for angry. The birds is just the complement. They went for angry game. It failed at the right time, and then people remember the angry more than the birds.
Okay. I noticed during this conversation that most of you are really fan of what we could call the lean startup principle, like really testing and adapting and adding features to the product or getting rid of it. And my question is like, imagine you're like, I will start with a quote from Gabriel Weinberg, founder of DuckDuckGo. He said, all failed startups have a product. And the problem, it seems, with when you test products and everything, is that you focus much more on the product development. This is what the debate is about, creating the perfect product for the market. But what happens if you focus on the product and on testing on people, and your product is ready, you release it on the market, who are your first customers? Where will you find them? Or the people that test? Like, is there any way to create traction before the product is even born?
Well, for me, the only testers are the people who pay for my product. If people don't pay for my product, they don't test. There's no point, because how can I get a response from anyone if he's not on the same level than anyone else? It really doesn't make sense. So I would not create a product, give it out for free, and say, can you tell me what you think? That's completely useless. That's not the way of testing. So you have to have a minimum viable product. You have to find your niche, go in and say, look, I've got your solution. There it is. And then you look at the feedback. And so you have already customers. You produce your product while you're working with customers. If you don't do this, then you do exactly what a lot of failed startups do. They create a huge product, they spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and then they're hoping someone will buy it. It's not. I find, personally, in my opinion, this is not the best way of doing it. It's quite dangerous. If you have the market and the money and everything behind you, maybe you can do something like this, large organization. But even Apple or anyone else, they don't bring a product on the market without testing it down to the ground. And these people who are testing these are specialized, this is a thing, people pay for this. You can become an Apple tester. You can actually buy the next iPhone already today, sign up for a tester, but you pay for it. It's not for free. You not become a free tester. That doesn't exist. That market, in my mind, that's the wrong way to go. You have to put some effort in, and only then will say, the people say, that's too expensive for what it is. This is not right. You don't want to find that out later on.
So I'm going to try to specify the question. A lot of, especially nowadays with the sharing economy, a lot of people are interested in the economy of things. You have the Airbnb of this, of that, a lot of marketplaces now. And the problem with these products is that they need both sides. They need, like, for example, for Airbnb, hosts and guests, drivers and users. And so if you start testing with a few people, do you think you have enough traction to retain these people to use the product? Because if you don't have, for example, enough drivers with Uber, who will use this product? Or if there are not enough users, who will drive for the few people that are there? Like, you know, you can test with a few people, but how do you create like this critical mass? How do you attain it fast enough the moment that you launch the product?
But how did Uber start? I mean, Uber started at one place, and they started with so many cars, and that's how then it started growing, and it went into different countries. But only after they knew it's going to work and how they're going to do it. And then they discovered there are problems in other countries, and there are different rules and different laws and whatever else, and they realized, oh my God, we have to make changes there. This is not really working the way we thought. But they had already started very well. They knew exactly what they were doing. I mean, you have to start somewhere. You start with the first customer, the first one. That's the one you get, and that's number one. And then you go from there and you build it up. To bring a product out of a market which attracts straight away the mass market, this is not really a startup. This is already someone who is on a certain level and has the means and the marketing power and whatever else behind him to actually do something like this.
Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I mean, as well I can speak from my own experience because we are a kind of marketplace between student and companies. So the way that we created our first customer is that for the first traction, actually we co-design, we co-build the product. So we are 3 co-founders, but actually to build one of our main products that is this label of quality for internship, we didn't create it alone. We went in a European tour, we engaged with 250 young persons, and with them we co-design, we build the product. So what is behind this label? What are your expectations? How would you define it? Which feature would you like? Yeah? So we define all together the criteria that define this label. So like this, we were able to create engagement. We were able to create trust as well, because they build this product as well with us, so they can refer to it as something that's valuable. And you create as well, people that will advertise your product. Yeah? Hey, I built this with them as well, so pay attention, it's nice, and so on. Yeah. So we were by designing a product with people as well, we were able to have already a first kind of community of early adopter. This you can when you go to the other side of the customer, yeah, the employers, you can say already that, hey, we have already a community. Yeah? It was something that was co-designed, that's where many people were involved. And it's how we created our first traction, actually. But it was a strategy from our part. Yeah? Clearly, we could have as well done, in a room, designing ourselves, and maybe go only to 1 or 2 institutions to approve it. And maybe it could have worked, but to create our first community was really to build the product together that enabled us to do the first sales. Yeah.
Okay.
I come from a country who, since 11 years, a European Union member, and after for 25 years we are free. Really, we live in the freedom. That's mean in my country, for example, I think there are a lot of new countries. It's important to have this information. For example, if we talk about a business, about the creation, ideas, and then finally to send the product in the market, it's important to have information about these cultural roots for the people and this region or cities or countries. And in my countries, the main question finally is if we have something, if we buy something or if we use something, is like with you, I agree, it's a price. Yes, but now maybe we change, we come for a new way, we look for this balance between price and quality. That is maybe the new beginning, and this is maybe the chance for a new film, for the new products, for not only big names, big colors, or the famous logos, to have a chance exist and have a success in our market.
Okay. You have an opinion?
Nope.
Okay. So, yesterday I was assisting a panel, and there was like a really interesting statement, and I wanted to ask it to you first. And basically, a colleague from the parliament said that the problem is that most laws were made when the internet did not exist, and a lot of legislation are there to block possible future startups. Like if a young person wants to start a marketplace for something, and he might fear like, oh, maybe I'm doing something illegal or something not legislative. Let's take Airbnb and Uber. It's still a huge debate about how do we tax the people, how do we deal with the taxi license and so on. And like, if someone comes up with new ideas, like, should this person think about the whole infrastructure, or should he just launch and see how it happens? And like, can we see like a future in Europe where the laws will adapt itself to the Internet of Things?
First of all, I remember from the culture and the education, youth and sport committee. And for example, I'm involved now in this new digital single market strategy from the European Commission. And my personally, I'm a rapporteur from the European film in the digital area. That means we are involved in an issue about the copyright, intellectual property, and of course, another subject. The second point is the legislation way. Sometimes if we look European institution, because Parliament play different rules, like the European Commission or the Council, in my opinion, is to slowly. That means the market or business can find every time the new solution to go to adopt for a proposal, and that is the second. Is must be maybe in the future we need so faster decision and maybe better paper or document when we can work together. And for me personally, it's so important to have a meeting or debate like today, or the people from the sector who can give us some information what we can do together for exist to better. And of course, it's also too really important. Like for today's, we talk with Mr. Oettinger, the commissioner, about the digital market. It's important to have maybe the same same level playing field for the beginning. But if we talk about, for example, film audiovisual sector, it's not so easy. For example, big countries in Europe or the small countries, that's this question about the geo-blocking or territoriality. We had a lot of question. Of course, Commission people use sometimes this expression is so easy. If we can have an example from United States, there's one country, federal status, and one language, and maybe one legislation. Maybe it's so easy, but our diversity, our cultural diversity also too, is really good argument for a good business, but sometimes it's really difficult to have a good connection between us, and some message to go from Poland to Spain to the vacation, and they use iPhone with the same films. Maybe we can send this so easy way, but for a legislation, it's not so easy.
So I have a follow-up question then. Well, no, just to ask again, actually. So the young people want to start the product. Should they, if it's like not clear in the legislation, should they then launch a product and expect the legislation to evolve to their products?
Simply, we must wait what's coming out in the first proposal. Really, the legislation proposal coming, I think so, in this year from the Commission side, and finally next year. And what I said for the beginning, the market use a lot of opportunity to adopt for a business, and our legislation way is too slow for him, in my opinion.
Okay. What do you guys think about this whole legislations against the Internet of Things?
For example, in the audiovisual sector, if we look, it's important to have a contact with people who represented sometimes really strong, really big stakeholders, but also to the smaller. If I can, for example, European film, it's really interesting as a product, as a business product. But for example, the funding for European film, this is between 70–80% go only to production. this is so really small packet go to the distribution, the promotion. This is also the possibility to look for a new business models, new chance for this sector. And I talk only about the film. This is really also too important. But we talk about the e-book, about another platform, video on demand. You know, this is not so simple. But only in this sector we can look also to possibility to exist, to have a better cooperation between in this whole supply chain.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like an entrepreneur, startuper, you are a doer. Yeah. So I think anyway, people will do their products even if it's against the legislation. Yeah. For example, I mean, people developed Silk Road or like Pirate Bay. They did it, but they knew that it was against the law. Yeah. So I think if you are like a real entrepreneur, people will do it anyway, even if the legislation is not ready yet. Yeah. So I'm not say that we should accept stuff like Silk Road, but the fact is that as well you have to. I think you always have some people that are at the forefront. Yeah, innovators. And the legislation should adapt in the end, yeah? I mean, as well, politicians are as well all services to make law that facilitate the business and our activities, yeah? But clearly it's open us to as well open new perspective, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So clearly I would say, yeah, always go for it, yeah? But clearly you might get into trouble, but well, it's part of the risk, yeah?
Yes. What do you guys think of it?
I have to say, in a way, when you're an entrepreneur, you start a business and you start up, you're going to come across quite a lot of hurdles, and that's just one of them. It's just one of the ways you have to deal with, and you need to look at it, of course, how you're going to do this. But I've been running businesses in several countries in Europe, and I have to say that each country has its own way of dealing with things and doing stuff. And in one, you think it's easier, it's not. There's just something else that's not right, and the next one is just something else that's not right. At the end of the day, what do we expect? We expect to say, okay, there's a hill. I don't like going over it. Can you please flatten that thing for me so it's easy for me to walk through? Well, of course, it would be fantastic and it would be a dream if it's like this. And everybody wants that. Who doesn't? I mean, clearly. But I don't think anyone who's serious about running a business, that won't stop them. You know, they will just go, as you said. I mean, just go and do it, you know. If you really love what you do, you go for it. That's it. You know, as long as you don't harm anyone else, that's all I say.
Okay. You want to add something, Juan?
No, I mean, I have a real recent example in mind. Have you heard of a company called Jump? Do you know them? They're a Brussels-based car-sharing company.
Oh, yes, yes.
And, you know, they've tried for years to deal with the taxi lobby and get the city to give them a license to operate, and they've done some trials, and it wasn't easy. Then Uber comes, invests 500,000 euro in marketing, opens up offices, launch their app, and just like that, they have 150 drivers after 2 months. And it's unfair. It's totally unfair because they can afford to pay lawyers, they can afford to pay fines. A small startup that doesn't have all those means, if they make a wrong step, they can close down. While a big established players, if they have, you know, if they are entering a market where they are trying to push the legislation, they're taking much more credibly to at least, you know, how open a conversation and do that than smaller players. So I think it's a continuous risk. I think that Europe will have with new types of business model is that if they work in North America or any unified market, it could be Argentina, Brazil, you know, any big markets where they can have a big penetration, have enough money or funding to really allow the company to go global, then they will be the one driving the conversation about pushing the legislation, not the small player. So I think there's a threat if we don't harmonize certain legislations that the conversation is not going to be led by European entrepreneurs. It's going to be led by foreign entrepreneurs, which much more means to, you know, drive the conversation.
What would be your advice then for a small startup that wants to challenge a bit the legislation? Should they go for it?
Well, the legislation is different in every country, so it depends on the market you're in. And then let's say you win UK. Yay, you get one market. Okay, then we go to Germany. Ugh, all over again, you need to start. So early success in one country doesn't guarantee you success in another one. And it's not, even the third one is not going to guarantee you success in the fourth one. So I think that is the issue, is every country could potentially have different legislation. So you'll have to go after each and every one of them, which is not easy.
So they should go or not? Or even if it's difficult? What would you coach them? That they should
Me?
Yes, personally.
Depends. I would say if they're in B2C, if they want to go global, I would say don't waste your time here. It's unfortunate, but don't waste your time here.
John, you want to say something?
I mean, it depends very much what you want to do. I mean, this is, you can't really answer that like this. But if it's your passion and that's what you want to do, go for it. You know, if it's just a product and you just want to make some money, well, maybe you want to think twice, because why you want to kill yourself on this? You find another product and do something else. It really depends on you, what kind of business you have and where you're going. There is no single answer for that.
Okay. I don't know if you're all familiar with the story of PayPal, but PayPal was really an innovative idea. And when he created a product, he really thought in the long term. Like a lot of internet products, actually, they saw that the future with the internet it was still it was spreading, and then they saw like internet would be everywhere, and you know how it led to the .com bubble. But my question is, like, when you create a product, should it answer like short-term or medium-term needs, or should they like the people from the .com bubble like focus on like a really long-term need, like PayPal did, like when they thought like they could replace money and then all put it online on the internet even before people actually needed it?
I don't think it's given for everyone to address a long-term need. Yeah? If you're a startup, again, you have limited resources, so you have to make an impact quite quickly. So it's only if you have like enough resources that you can maybe aspire to tackle a like long-term need. But I would say for young people, I mean, if it's your first startup, your first product, go for something at least that answer a proper need. No, you need to make an impact quite quickly.
You're going to think bigger. You think, well, I can do a little bit more than this. And so the vision actually extends. And at one point, yes, if you say multinational, I know people who can imagine very well to run a multinational and do this. If they really want to, they can do this easily, you know. But then as a complete new person in the market with no idea what's really going on, I mean, the usual thing is, I hope I survive the first year and can still pay my rent at the end of it. And that's pretty much it. And that's how it is, you know.
So I have a follow-up question. Should people still have like a long-term vision, or should they only first have the first short-term results and then create the vision? I'll give you an example. With SpaceX, for example, his long-term vision is to colonize Mars. But he does it how? By first answering short-term needs, for example, sending shipments to space with his rockets, which are much cheaper. Or with PayPal, they wanted to be like the payment platform for the internet, but they started first on eBay, you know, providing a payment system. So is it important for people to already know how it might look like in 20 years, or should they first start small and then have this vision?
You're just describing a product which has absolutely no use. I mean, nobody knows what to do with this product. It's something completely out of the air. I mean, if I'm going to live on Mars, I mean, what's the advantage for me living? I mean, what do I get out of this at all? I mean, will I even want to think about it? So maybe curiosity is you could put it in that corner and say, all right, that would be really cool. So it's something different. If someone has a vision like this, great. If you have it, you know, go for it. Why not? You know, there's nothing wrong with having these kind of ideas and trying really to make it work. But what I was trying to say is that most people don't have that kind of vision. Most people start on a lower level, and that's the reason they're there. And over time, it develops, and they can see, actually, I can do this. Today, I make whatever, 10,000 a month. Tomorrow, I can make 20, then 30. You know, if I can make 30, maybe next year I can do 40. You can see yourself, but it's a stage-by-stage process. But then there are people out there who just complete dreamers, and they don't really care about it. They just say, oh, I do this. And these are usually what I found. Most of the entrepreneurs out there on that level, they're never going to make it. be very clear about it. They just don't, because they just live in this world, in this dream world, and they never actually do something for it. Because if they start doing something for it, they would realize, maybe I'm going a little bit far with this, because it's already quite hard what I have to do right now for this thing. You know, they can't vision it yet. That's my experience on this.
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah, I would slightly disagree. I mean, clearly, if it's your first startup, it's very hard, and you have to be to persevere, yeah, and to enable you to keep going. To have a vision, it's important, yeah. So yeah, of course, you have to have some objective to make it maybe 10,000 like first year, and after you grow and so on. But you have to have as well a vision, yeah. I will create something that actually will change things. It's what make you okay every day. Okay, I will wake up, and even if it's hard, I will make it. But clearly, there's as well to add on what Juan was saying. I see as well people that just want to make something that is successful and to sell it after 1 or 2 years. Yeah, and clearly the fact that there is as well so few European startups that are really successful is as well our responsibility. Yeah, it's because some people want to sell their products by the company to bigger company like from other country to just make money. Yeah, it's as well our own responsibility because we don't want to go forward and we don't have this vision. Yeah, we have a short-term vision. So for me, I think it's important to develop a vision first to really give you some strength to produce something, to make a product that is successful, and as well for the future of Europe. Yeah, like if you speak about in more general terms, but it's really important people have a vision. Because otherwise, would you sell your company to bigger player and that's it? Yeah.
Sometimes explanation maybe is so easy because we started to give our discuss today about the success about the product and look forward. This is now we come to this point as achievement on the goal. This is the simple definition of the success. Mm-hmm. We have our ideas. We have our goals, and finally we will have success. But our life, everyone for one, live in this comfort zone. That means we have our lucky life, family, wife, husband, children, friends, and you talk about creation, development. And if we will something reach in our life, we must leave this comfort zone and go to development zone. But and this another cycle. I'm sure we have everyone from us has can find this sadness, risk. You know, we can lose, but finally, if we win, we are second time, or we just begin new circle. We are now also too lucky. We have really something joy. Sometimes maybe it's this exaltation and then we can talk about maybe this year 10,000 items, maybe next year 20. This is like circle lives. But it's the question sometimes people ask me because I come from sport, and it's the question: what is important? What's play for have the success? Knowledge or what's played a personality? How many percent, if we have finally 100% success, how many percent play the knowledge, our knowledge, and another side we have personality. It's the answer is 15%. 15% is only knowledge, but personality, character, these ideas, sometimes they use the risk. Give us the success. Of course, I will not say today nobody go to the school or it's not important to be really, strong man or with character or some bad language. No, this is not this idea. This means if our knowledge is bigger, maybe with personality we can use. And important to create our zone. What is for me important? Only to be my comfort zone or go like your experience, like your examples. Create new development zone, but this is sometimes never-ending story. We go only. Thank you.
Since you're in the domain of sports,
sorry, Kevin.
Tell me.
I'm not sure if this is working. Is it working?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just trying to. Now it's working. I don't know if I can just like interrupt a little bit. Because
Sure.
To be honest, I'm not really in the panel, but I really liked your question about this vision, and I personally think that it's very important to dream big, but it's also very important to be kind of down to the ground, because if you have this vision to colonize Mars, it's an amazing vision, of course. I mean, it may have a great potential, and you can actually dream about it. But then on the other hand, if you need to fit your vision to the resources you really have. So of course, if you are really kind of, you don't really have much resources, you don't really have much money to start, then, I mean, at least most of the entrepreneurs I know, they tell me that it's better for you to actually start something that people already know, or that you do not have to start a market for it by yourself. This is the question that we have already discussed a little bit on being a pioneer. Is it good or not? Well, from my perspective, well, it's very difficult to be a pioneer, because of course, if you have to convince people to be interested in a product that you want to produce, if nobody else is producing it. So if you do not really have much resources, it's always easier to go in a business that is more traditional, that people already know that what's your offer. You know, so it all depends. Let's say it all depends on your starting point. Of course, SpaceX, who is it the one that is kind of that was created by Mr. Husk?
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
He's crazy. And actually, when he was starting, I met him.
Really?
When he started SpaceX, because it was in Washington D.C. I was in U.S. Congress. He was having a hearing about SpaceX, and he said that there was a hearing about to what extent NASA should take over the space exploration, and to what extent SpaceX can be a threat to NASA for space exploration. So for him, he's a billionaire. So for him, this kind of dreams are simply possible because he actually has the resources to do it, and he can at least go into this market. But if you do not have any resources, then it's a problem. I mean, you cannot build a space rocket if you are kind of paying your bills and you have 1,000 euro per month, and kind of trying to go from one end of the month to the other. Just a comment. If you have any questions, of course, you can raise your hand. Kevin will notice.
You have questions, actually.
Just to say, it's true and it's not true what you say. Think about great leaders like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. I mean, they had no money, yet they had a vision. So if you're able to inspire your potential customer, even to give a little, to believe in your cause, think about social entrepreneurship, a vision can help you drive, sympathy, endorsement, funders. It goes back to the personality of whom he is the entrepreneur, how charismatic he is, how feasible his idea or his vision is, the type of resource and expertise it requires. We talked about the timing, the right moment, the right place. So there's a set of factors that can play in the advantage, but sometimes a vision is enough.
I mean, of course, I agree with that. It's just that for me, money is a really equivalent of time. So if you do not really have money, you just need to have more time, and it takes you more time to develop the vision and the product, and it takes you much more to actually develop the business model that allows you to get some results out of it. But of course, it's all possible. If you have a vision and you are able to kind of bring people into this vision and to this idea, very certainly it's possible. It's just that it takes more time.
But I don't really think he has a real business model already for this. He just has an idea right now, and he wants to develop a business model based on this, depending what comes out of this situation. So what you said is, I see exactly like this. So if you have no money, you need time. And of course, something like this, if you're a single person with no resources and no backup, it's going to be very hard for you. And are you going to live long enough to actually make it happen? And there are people, and if you look at Mother Teresa or people like you, I mean, they were doing this all their life. They did nothing else. This was it. And the other guy had to sit in jail for I don't know how long before he became to that thing. So if you want to run, if you want to run a business based on this, you can. And passion and a mission is certainly something you can have and to go forward with it. But today, when we think about business, we're talking about short term. Let's be clear. I mean, nobody's thinking about, okay, in 20 years, I'm going to be there. That's not something, I mean, I don't think many people here will think like this. Many people think, okay, I start now, I have enough money to live for 6 months, in 6 months my business has to turn over some money, otherwise, you know, I have to stop. That's the reality for most people, except you have a lot of money. But
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? You don't have to be shy. Okay, so we're going to change the theme. It's also a question that a lot of people wonder. Every product always has competition, whether direct or indirect. Should we pay attention to competitors? And if yes, what can we learn from them? Who wants to start?
Well, when we meet, when we have a business model or somebody comes and presents us a business plan, the first question we always ask them is, do you have competitors? And I'm very surprised that most of the time they know they have, but they have never listed them, or they haven't made the effort to understand what are people's offer. So very often, I mean, sometimes entrepreneurs are so in love with the idea that they would blind themselves into alternative to their products, competitor to their products, to a point where they're just in love with their project. It is going to work. It's innovative. I'm the right person. Yet it helps to look at the competition. One, because as was said before, it validates that there is a market. Two, it allows you to eventually find a niche or a way to differentiate yourself or to expand the offer. So you would know where you place yourself. It can help you in the marketing. It can help you in your marketing research to know about your competitors. And so I think it's a fairly important question, but that shouldn't stop anyone from developing their business, that there are competitors. But yes, I think it's an important ways.
And if the competitor makes a move, should you pay attention to it?
Makes
a move. Like, should you only focus on just building your community, building your product, or if it starts investing or adding features or something like that, if you like studying the competition during the market, during the existence of your product, should you pay attention to them?
Yeah, because hopefully either one day they're going to buy you or you're going to buy them. So yeah, sure, whatever step they take could potentially be interesting to you. And I mean, it would help to be more specific or have a case in mind. But yes, I guess it's you can learn valuable lessons.
Okay. Just maybe to add as well to what Ben was saying. I mean, so it's important to know to understand why you make the success of the competitor, but as well what were the failure. So sometimes we don't focus really on that. We always look at the bright side. Okay, they were successful because of that. But I mean, they try as well many ways with tries and error, and it's important to as well really go down in the history of the company that you want to look at and see what were the failure, why did they fail, and this will give you as well a good understanding of your market. So this is really important as well, and sometimes most people forget about that.
Does it also work for why did they succeed? Can we also learn from
of course, but we have the tendency to focus more on why they succeed. Clearly it's important, yeah, but to understand even better your market, look at what they try and where they fail, yeah, because I'm sure they fail in somehow, yeah. So,
I mean, how are you going to sell a product without knowing what the other ones are doing? I don't even know how that works. I mean, you try to make a difference. You try to bring something on the market which differentiates itself from others, so people come to you to buy. Why would they come to you if there's already someone else there who's doing it quite well and okay? I mean, your chances are pretty low, I guess, to do anything. So if you don't look at your competitors and you don't understand what they do, I don't even know how that would work. The second thing, of course, is that depends on the market you're in. If you're in a complete new market, there might not be any competitors yet. I mean, I don't know how many there are to go on the Mars and live on the Mars. I don't know. But it's probably a completely different market, and that's something what we said before, which you have to develop and you have to go into. Very different story. If you go in an existing market, it's probably easier, and the reason it's easier, because you have something to look at, because there are people already doing it. There are people who already have either success or not success in it, and that's the good part of it, so you can study it. And of course you should. I mean, if you don't, then you're blind, like you said. You're just trying to fly and without even knowing what's happening, That's a dangerous game, But it's also possible that you, for example, go with a complete new product into an existing market, or with an old product into a new market. Depends really where you are in, and sometimes that's not so easy. So, A new product in a complete new market. I mean, when the first apps came out, I mean, there was nothing to look at. You just had to go for it and give it a good go, you know, that's it. And the same with the Mars mission. I guess there are no other people to look at, so you just have to come up with something. But we said already, that's the most difficult path, you know, going into a new market, either with a new product in a new market or an old product a new product in a new market and the other way around. There is no other way. But if you have something where you have competition to look at, it's like reading a book. If I say to you, you can do it yourself without reading a book, or there is a book that tells you exactly how to do it, what you're going to do. I mean, most likely you're going to look at the book and see, okay, what do they say? You might do it differently later on, but at least you look.
Okay, you wanted to add something?
For another side, we need competition and competitors. You know, this is like you said. Maybe it's important to look for a success side, for a failure side, and to across this analysis, we can maybe put something what we're missing and the products from their people. We can add something new, and then finally we stay in the front of the crowd. That is like in a sport, but without competition, our credibility, our possibility, and our quality go down because nobody competed with me, and that maybe I'm really happy, I'm really strong, but which is my really my credibility. What I can say to people, for example, in a sport in my country, I follow with my team from the 16. Was in 16th, 3rd place in the Europe for the clubs, and after 3-4 years, we stayed now in the 3rd place. That means the question was not only sport; the question was in the competition and all this different part of this supply chain. But sport, the results was only finally to help us with creation our really strong possibility with PR, human relation, marketing, and so and so. But after 2 years, we don't lose nothing, you know, you win everything. Then you can see in your people, your worker, your friends or your partners, this felt finally the simple motivation. It's important to be all time and continue in our motivation, and that is what we need competitors.
Okay, thank you. Last question. It finishes at 11:30, right? So. Yeah, okay. So I'll see how long this question lasts. But so it's still connected with competition. So I don't know if it's a mistake or not. You will tell me. But there are two types of startups. Those who want to conquer a huge market and they say like, oh, I want to have like 1% of like a $3 billion market. While they have other startups who focus more on a really, really small niche market and then start taking adjacent markets. What do you think is like the best strategy when you start out with your product to focus on the whole market, or to start small and then take new markets? Like monopoly versus competition, basically. Because if you can find a niche where you get a monopoly, you would get almost 100% of it.
If you want to compete in a large market, in a huge market, you need a lot of money and a lot of resources and effort in order to do so. So it depends on your position where you are. If you are even in app development today, I mean, you can't create an app anymore which is just for everyone. It doesn't even exist. You have to go for a specific niche market, and you look at this. And as more niche it is, as easier it will be for you to actually be successful with it. It doesn't mean it cannot grow into other areas later, of course, but you need to start somewhere. And the other really important part about niche market is you need to speak to someone. You need to develop the product together with your customers. If you look at the mass, who is your customer? I mean, you don't even know who it is. But if you can drag it down to a niche market, you have someone you can go to and say, hey, you're the person I want to do this for. And can you give me some feedback? This is my product. What do you think? You know, what's going on with this? This is an easy way of doing it. If you're a large organization and you have a lot of money, yes, you can, of course. But as a startup, I don't know, not sure.
How do you choose your niche market? How do you know it's like the old people, the young, or is it just you have to try and then with feedback you change?
I guess it depends on you. Huh? If you For example, let's say there's a guy, he does walking Brussels, for example, and he's looking for, that's his business, what he does, and he's looking for a niche market. Well, there are niche markets. He can go to whatever, a handicapped organization can say, look guys, I'm doing walking Brussels for handicapped people. No one else does this. It's a niche market I discovered, which is completely new. So you go to the organization, start asking questions, talking to them, is there anything there, is there money, whatever not. If you find out there isn't, you go to another organization. I mean, you can think of crazy stuff, and you can go really into you can do a walking Brussels for blind people. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but when you think about it, it's possible. You can say, okay, nice smells, nice things, you bring them by the chocolate fair, whatever. This could be, I don't know what is great for them or not, but there is a market, you can do this, it can work. And starting with a market like this gives you a name, and it gives you, people think, hey, this is, that's something very unique. That's a good way to start without having to spend too much money, too much effort to get going.
Do you agree with this methodology?
Yeah, clearly for me it's always to develop a minimum viable product, to try, to test it. And after, if you are, either you fail, and it's okay, you didn't spend too much money or you didn't spend too much time, you can try another thing. Either you are successful, how to say, lean process, of decision making and so on. So I don't know if it would work for big corporation, because you have like, I'd say, you have some objective. If you don't reach your objective, you are like, I don't know, you have people have other kind of pressure that I'm not sure that they will be able to tackle, to deal with trying and errors all the time, But I don't know, I'm not really aware of the culture, corporate culture, so maybe.
Do you think that this might be the cause of why big companies, they get easily replaced by new startup, and like every time there's like a J curve and like someone new comes to the market, replaces the incumbent, and every time something new, because when you're like really big, you cannot change as leanly anymore?
I don't know, you can buy some new startup, innovative startup, and it's how you stay competitive. So I don't have that much example of actually like big players being replaced by a new startup. It's more the opposite way. So it's why money can help you actually. You buy other innovative startup and you stay competitive. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, like the big American player, I don't know, they always buy some new startup to stay.
I have one, MySpace and Facebook.
Ah, okay.
I mean, I have to say there is this new trend which is called entrepreneurship, which is the thing people, companies actually get entrepreneurs working in their thing without the confinements of the company, finding new markets and going out and do things. They do the same stuff. They're looking at niche markets, and this is a trend that goes further and further. And I find this more and more people actually asking for this kind of thing. There's even a need right now, for some sort of of training of entrepreneurs, so some sort of certification or whatever else, because all large companies need to have something. But this is exactly where it then goes wrong, because an entrepreneur should not be within the confinements of any of this. He should be completely free to do what he needs to do in order to find his way. And not everybody, it's more personality issue than actually a problem of training or anything like this. Training helps, but it's not the main thing. So this is something that happens more and more, and even large American companies now realize that it's important. And I know people who work in large companies, and they tell me they have now entrepreneurs in nearly every department even of these large organizations, where they slowly realize if they stay like this, they're not going to continue. They have to find new ways of making it better. I mean, look at Google, alone, what they do, with giving people 20% of their time to do whatever they want to develop, or doing other things. I mean, there are so many people trying all sorts of things out. This didn't come from them. This was actually an entrepreneur at Google who said, that's the way we should try this, because that's the way to do it, to get more out. This is a social entrepreneur they had, which they have multiple ones, working for them, doing exactly that kind of thing, finding completely new, crazy ways, testing them, see if they work.
Okay.
And that seems to be the trend now.
Okay, well, I think we'll conclude it now. It was a really, really interesting debate on how to create a good product for a market. I think that what we learned on this panel today is to basically test really small, try to get a small market first, and then grow from there and add features like according to the feedback get from people. It's important to have a vision, but also like short-term goals that might lead to that big vision. I think that would summarize like the whole talk, and also have that sports spirit, always believe in yourself. Competition is good, it makes us work. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Kevin, for leading this. Yeah, I think it was a very good discussion.